everyone, and welcome to episode 103 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Herbalism During Historical Pandemics. If you are new here, you are most certainly welcome. And if you are a continuing listener, thank you so much for continuing to listen to everything herbal medicine. This channel is designed for herbalists, herbal enthusiasts, plant enthusiasts, anyone that is interested in learning about, sharing about, and is passionate about herbal medicine, the human body, science, and them all merging together. This podcast is for you. So let's get into today's episode. We're going to explore herbalism during historical pandemics. And I'm going to dive into how herbs were used during some of these most historical, devastating pandemics and the impact that these events have on the human body, as well as why understanding this history is so important for us herbalists today. Pandemics have shaped the world in so many different ways, which has forced people to innovate and adapt and rely on natural remedies when other medical resources were scarce. So as herbalists, examining these historical practices not only help us honor the resilience of our craft, as they say, but also provides valuable insights for addressing current and potentially future health crises. So I thought that it would be good to kind of take a look back at what happened over the last 20 plus years and what they did during those times, and then how we can kind of hunker down, buckle up, and use some of that knowledge from the past to help us here now in the future and beyond. So over the past 2 decades, the world has faced several different significant pandemics and outbreaks. We had the H1N1 influenza pandemic in around 2009, I believe, and this was commonly called the swine flu. Now, this pandemic was caused by the H1N1 influenza virus. That's important to know. It emerged around April 2009, and it spread very quickly. And the World Health Organization at that time declared it a pandemic by June of later on that year. Now, the impact on the body that this flu has caused, or should I say virus, it's caused respiratory issues ranging from mild to severe, with symptoms such as fever, cough, and body aches. Severe cases led to pneumonia, respiratory failure, and even death, especially among those who were vulnerable during that time. That is your immunocompromised, potential young kids, that type of thing. So during this time, people used herbs like elderberry and thyme. They were often used to support the immune system as well as to alleviate any respiratory symptoms. They utilized herbal teas combining immune boosting as well as soothing herbs to help reduce inflammation and to help speed up recovery. After that, we had COVID-19. And I'm talking more of the current ones now. We'll go even further back here in just a second from a historical perspective. But we had COVID-19, right? And that was around 2019. So what they're saying now is the present, because they're saying there's some cases that are starting to come back now. But this global pandemic began with the SARS-CoV-2 back in December 2019, and it was declared a pandemic in March 2020. COVID-19 brought widespread health, economic, as well as social challenges. The impact that it had on our body, the virus caused symptoms ranging from mild fever, cough, cold, or fatigue to severe symptoms, such as acute respiratory distress syndrome, blood clots, as well as multi-organ failure for some people. Now, modern herbalists have turned to herbs like astragalus for immune support, licorice root for respiratory health, and adaptogens like ashwagandha to help manage stress and inflammation during this time. I also utilized Eastern white pine during this time as well, which helps because it does have 5 times the amount of vitamin C than regular citrus. So that was another one that was used. I know specifically for myself, I used it during that time. Now, some other notable outbreaks within the last 20 years was the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome in 2012. And this is a coronavirus outbreak that caused severe respiratory illness, but it had limited human to human spread. And they used herbs like mullein and thyme to support the respiratory health during this type of condition. The next one was around between 2014 and 2016. That was the Ebola virus, and that was a deadly outbreak in West Africa with over about 11,000 deaths. And so herbal remedies they used were aimed to support their immune system as well as to alleviate the symptoms that they had, which was fever and diarrhea. Yuck, right? Another one shortly after that, it kind of came in between the Ebola virus. It was between 2015 and 2016, and that was the Zika virus. And this was a mosquito-borne virus spread rapidly, causing neurological issues. And they used mosquito repellents, they used immune-supporting herbs during this time to kind of help them get through the Zika virus. Now, let's take a historical step back here and look at some historical pandemics that kind of happened during that time. The first one, which was around the 14th century, was the Black Plague. And during this time, they called it the Black Death or the bubonic plague. It ravaged through Europe, Asia, and North Africa, killing about an estimated 25 to 50 million people. Now, they said it was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, and it spread through fleas carried by rats. Right? That's crazy. Now, the symptoms included swollen lymph nodes and fever, chills, and blackened skin due to necrosis, which is skin death. Now, the swollen lymph nodes, they call them buboes, which I believe is where they got the bubonic word from. What happens with your lymph nodes when they swell, because they're trying to break down toxins and bacteria and all this, they swell to be able to hold the capacity of those things so that they can start breaking them down, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then, of course, like I said, blackened skin due to cell death, which is necrosis. So the infection overwhelmed the immune system, leading to sepsis, which is poisoning of the blood, organ failure, and death within days in the most severe cases during that time. So the herbs that they used during those times were garlic, because it was antimicrobial and it can ward off the infection. They also used rue, and that was used to purify the air, and it was also as to protect them. They used it for protective measures. Angelica, they used that to strengthen their immune system, which helped some of them during those times. Now, they also used herbal vinegars like Four Thieves, and they applied them or consumed them. They also used different types of herbal incense to cleanse the air, because bad air was believed to cause the illness in the first place. The next issue was around the 19th century. That was the cholera outbreaks, and it was caused by Vibrio chlorei, which spread through contaminated water and food, particularly in urban areas with poor sanitation. The symptoms included severe diarrhea, dehydration, and shock. Now, the impact that this had on the body was rapid fluid loss and electrolyte imbalance, which led to circulatory collapse and death if they didn't address the issue. Some of the herbs that they used during this time were peppermint to ease stomach cramps and nausea, ginger to reduce inflammation and support digestion. They used blackberry root to manage diarrhea. And if you notice with a lot of these issues, you'll see ginger, you'll see peppermint. You know, when you're thinking about herbal remedies for pandemics and stuff like that, you don't have to get all these exotic herbs. A lot of times the herbs are already around you if they're not already in your kitchen cabinet or in your refrigerator as is. So just kind of keep that in mind, but we'll talk more about that later. Now, during this particular outbreak, they also used rehydration teas combined with soothing and astringent herbs to help restore fluids that they had lost. They also used herbal poultices to alleviate cramping and abdominal discomfort. Next, we have the Spanish flu. Now, this happened between 1918 and 1920. And during this time, the Spanish flu was caused by H1N1 influenza strain, and it infected 1/3 of the global population and caused at least 50 million deaths. Young adults were disproportionately affected due to cytokine storms, and this is where your immune system is just overactive. Now, the impact that happened on the body was fever, fatigue, and body aches, and they progressed to severe lung inflammation as well as bacterial pneumonia. Some of the herbs that they used during the Spanish flu were elderberry, which boosted immunity and reduced the viral replication. They used yarrow, which promoted sweating to reduce fever. They used licorice root, which soothed inflamed lungs. Some of the practices that they did during this time were steam inhalations with antimicrobial herbs like eucalyptus, and they also used herbal tonics and syrups to support their respiratory health. Next issue or epidemic was the tuberculosis epidemic, and that was around the 19th and 20th century, which is TB, right, as people say. So TB spread rapidly due to crowded urban conditions, and symptoms included chronic cough, night sweats, weight loss, as well as fatigue. The impact that TB had on the body was that the lung tissue was damaged, which led to respiratory failure, and in advanced cases, it also caused systemic infections. The herbs that they used during this time was mullein as an expectorant to clear out the mucus. They used marshmallow root, and that is to soothe inflamed tissues. They used pine needles as an antiseptic as well as respiratory benefits. And some of the practices that they utilized were drinking herbal teas and syrups to help soothe their throat and the lungs. They also went outside and used the power of just being outdoors and breathing in fresh, clean air. That was another thing that they used during that time. Now, what are the lessons of all of these different pandemics that have occurred for modern herbalists, us herbalists of today? Number one is prevention is key. The reality is that a lot of these viruses, not only do they attack our respiratory systems, but they also attack our immune systems. And our immune systems is what helps fight off any type of disorder or dis-ease or any type of bug or anything that may get into our systems that it identifies as foreign. And so if our immune system is weakened from whatever it is that we may be doing, then it's not able to fight off, and it makes us susceptible to these different diseases or viruses that come around. So historically, herbalists focused on building resilience even before the illness struck. So that means looking at the type of foods that you're eating, looking at what water you're drinking. If you are drinking herbal teas, are they focusing on cleansing and detoxifying the body? That way, if you do get something or something is sprayed in the air or whatever, your excretory organs, meaning the organs that are designed to get rid of the toxins in the body, they're not overloaded or they're not backed up. It's almost like a clear highway. There is no traffic, but if there is traffic and it does get backed up, then when you do get something and the body is trying to get rid of it, now it's stuck in traffic, so to speak, right? And it's not able to help clean out like it needs to, because it knows what to do. I tell people this all the time. The body knows what to do. It just has to have the proper conditions. There can't be any clogged arteries. There can't be any clogged pipes. Everything has to be clean and clear in order for the body to be able to do what it needs to do, and which is to function to keep us healthy and alive. So prevention is key. Another one is adaptability really does matter. So what that means is not necessarily focusing on the herbs far, far away from where you are. Making sure that you understand what's growing locally available around you so that you can say, okay, I can use these herbs during this time. This also helps to ensure sustainability as well. Picking only what you need for preventative measures. Okay, so that's the other thing, being able to adapt and understand that you may not always be able to call on Amazon to get what you need. You're probably going to have to put on those tennis shoes, step outside in your back door, go to your local forest, other areas, and try to identify which particular herbs can help you. So being adaptable during this time is definitely important. Another thing is holistic practices. So combining herbal remedies, because it's not just about drinking the teas or the syrups or the poultices or the tinctures. It's also about good hygiene as well as good lifestyle changes. So making sure that you are not eating endocrine disrupting foods, making sure you're not overloading on unnecessary sugars. With a lot of people, that's what we all struggle with sometimes, eating sugar. But it's really damaging to our bodies and is really damaging to our health. So lifestyle changes also have to happen. Keeping your environment clean, keeping your body clean, keeping your mind clear. These things also help the body especially be able to weigh the tides when pandemics or epidemics or all these other issues happen in the world. Another thing is blending tradition with science. So understanding that not all science is bad. I know a lot of people, especially some herbalists, they're like, oh no, we're not touching science. We're not touching any of that. Now, the science that I gravitate towards has always been our foundational sciences, which basically understands how our body works, how the plant body works, okay, on a chemical level, biochemical level, as well as a physiological level, and understanding how to take that information that we know and be able to create remedies that really target and impact the body in a great way. So that's the type of science that I subscribe to. There's a lot of other avenues and elements of science that I don't necessarily agree with or even subscribe to. So that's not what I'm talking about. But in terms of understanding the plants and understanding the body, you got to know those foundational sciences. Those things are important. If you understand a little bit about viruses, that's important. And I think it's really going to blow your mind as an herbalist when you start looking into it, because you're like, hey, wait a minute. Where do these things come from? They don't seem to have a biological origin. So now I have to scratch my head and say, if it doesn't, then where is it coming from? If there are disorders or diseases that are in the land that are caused by a bacteria or caused by a fungus or whatever the case may be, then you would want to know the science around that so that you can know, how do these things live? How do they thrive? What are they looking for? How do they shut us down? How do they make us sick? So this is the science that I'm talking about. Making sure you understand those things, because it will impact your life and it will impact your client's life. And so understanding the science in addition to the traditional ways that we do herbal medicine, I believe that that's really going to help us create a more targeted approach, especially if you're new to the field, or if you're an herbalist, you feel like, okay, I have all the traditional measures, but sometimes I feel like there's something missing. I need that extra bit of information to help me really target this specific phytochemical to this specific issue so that it can actually work. How will I know that it's going to actually work without having to do a whole lot of trial and error? And blending those two together help you to be able to do that, as well to be able to understand that. So during this time of pandemics, epidemics, any type of other health scares that may go on, we as herbalists have to make sure that we are prepared and armed with knowledge, understand everything that we hear on TV, on the radio, whatever dis-ease they're trying to say is coming down the pike, or whatever pandemic they're trying to say is coming down the pike, then that should trigger us as herbalists to first of all understand it, all of its elements of it. What can we do to promote prevention so that our clients or our people, our families, friends, or even our own selves don't get it? But if you so happen to do that, or you so happen to get it, then these are some things that you can do to address it, to make sure that you get rid of it quickly and that the body is able to do what it's designed to do. And that having that understanding of the human body, I cannot stress that enough. That is so, so, so important. What I'm creating right now is several different textbooks on the human body and on the sciences, and it's geared specifically towards herbalists, because I'm so passionate about us really understanding that aspect of it, as well as the traditional models, so that we can have all the available information to really have an impact in our clients' lives, and make sure that when we are recommending a protocol that we've created, we know that there's a high chance that it'll work. We know that based on certain predictions and information that we have, an understanding of the client's body, we know and understand that if we have all of that information, then we really truly will be able to help and make a difference, because it's going to be needed. I know during COVID-19, there were a lot of people, there's a lot of information out there. There was a lot of information on TikTok, internet, TV, a lot of fear mongering mixed in with that as well. And people are going to get sick and tired of that after a while. And I know a lot of people that did get sick and tired of that after a while, and they just wanted to know, what is the reality of what's going on here? What is the truth? How can I prevent it? How can I protect my family really? Can you explain that to me without trying to sell me a magic potion? You know, explain it to me. And after you explain it, you may say, hey, you need to do some different things from a lifestyle perspective. You're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to fortify. You're going to have to protect. And people may not want to do those changes, and that's fine. That's their choice. But I've told you, you won't be able to say if something happens or if another pandemic comes around, you won't be able to say that no one told you. You won't be able to sit there and say, oh my gosh, it happened to me out of nowhere. I don't know how it happened. I don't know where it came from. It just slapped me in the face and my body just took it on and it just took over me and all that. Nah, you're not gonna be able to do that because you're gonna have information. So as herbalists during this time, especially because all these other new viruses they're talking about and even digging up some old ones, make sure that you have enough knowledge to understand what's going on. What are the mechanisms behind these viruses? What are they designed to do? And then what you do is you match the herb action, okay, to combat that. All right. If there's something that is designed to go in there and hijack your DNA and try to recreate itself, then you need to find an herb that is designed specifically to get rid of that particular virus and stop it from replicating itself. There are herbs out there that can do that. All right. So that's the kind of strategy mind that you're going to have when it comes to understanding this different diseases, disorders, and viruses that come our way. You really have to have a strategy thinking mind and not just a one size fits all, because there really is no one size fits all for everyone. So you want to have a couple of different herbs for a couple of different body constitutions. Okay. But at any rate, fill up your arsenal now. Okay. Just in case. If you have an herbal first aid kit, then go ahead and add in some of those remedies for viruses and things like that, because there is a common thread with a lot of these viruses. There really, really, truly is. So find that common thread, write it down, make sure you got the herbs to address and respond to any type of issues that we may have going forward. So from the Black Plague to COVID-19, pandemics have profoundly influenced human health as well as herbal medicine. Historically, herbs served as vital tools for immunity, symptom relief, as well as emotional support. These lessons remind modern herbalists to honor traditional wisdom while integrating it with contemporary knowledge to tackle today's health challenges effectively. This is where the adaptability comes in, a being able to not just stay stuck on one way of doing things, but understanding that as times change, I should say, or as time shifts, then we have to make those adjustments as well. We can't stay stuck in one route of doing things because there's multiple ways. All right. So if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media sites at The Demystified Herbalist. Once again, go to my store at thedemystifiedherbalist.square.site and get you some herbal products. I got a lot of workbooks over there if you're interested in that, case studies. If you want to get a workbook for that will really help you understand how to formulate. I have a formulation book over there where you can do calculations and all this other stuff to really help guide, strengthen, and support your herbal formulation journey. So check it out, as well as some herbal products for respiratory issues, aches and pains, something to help you go to sleep, something to help you wake up. I got it all over there. So check out the store, and thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Have a great evening. Get some rest. Power up. It's our time now. So let's get it this year, 2025. And with that, family, I'm out.